What up, IDS Mob? Welcome to the Introvert Dating Success Show. I'm Harry Wilmington, and today we're going to talk about misconceptions that you may have about dating and that women also have about dating that could result in a clash and being unable to get the results that you want. And there were two interesting conversations and things that I heard this week that made me want to talk about this. So I'll tell you the first one. The first one was this past week, I flew to Denver to see a concert with Dua Lipa and Megan Thee Stallion. And so on my flight back into Long Beach, California, as the plane was about to land, there was a kid that had been sitting behind me and adjacent to me the whole flight. And for the most of the flight, he was really annoying and was making a lot of weird noises. And it took everything within me to not tell him to just shut the heck up because I didn't want to be rude and get into a fight with the parents. So at some point, as we were getting close to landing, I hear this kid talking about something, and then out of the blue, he says something to the effect of, if I wanted to ask a girl for her number, I would just say, "Hey, give me your phone number, and I'll give you $10." And then people started laughing, and his parents like, "No, you couldn't do blah, 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 blah." And then the kid was like, "No, hey, I'm a guy. Like, if a guy came to me and asked me for my number for $10, I'd be like, sure, no problem." So the comment was funny, and I had to chuckle a little bit. But then, of course, I go into my relationship building brain, and my thought was that this kid who had to be like 9, maybe 10 years old, at the age of 9 or 10 years old, as a young boy, he's already gotten to the thought process that in order to attract women, he's going to have to show off or spend some kind of money in order to get the desired results. All right. And so obviously, for those of you guys that are watching this program and have tried to, attract women with money or try to buy them things to keep them, you know that more often than not, that doesn't necessarily work. But how does he get that idea in the first place? We'll get into that in a second. So then I get home and I'm watching TikTok, and there's just randomly in my feed, this guy comes up on my TikTok feed, and he is talking and counseling a young woman as it pertains to her dating life. And so I'm going to play this for you because I thought that what she says in this is a fascinating insight into potentially what many other women think and feel that they have to do when they are dating in order to keep a man's attention. Okay, so let's go ahead and play this video, and I'll stop and start along the way to try to give my 2 cents.
Okay, so how do you not hook up with someone at the end of a date, like if you don't want to?
You can literally just say no.
Okay, but what if you feel bad because they put in that time for that date and
they're literally not entitled to your body.
So as you can see at the start of this conversation, she's wondering, how can you tell a guy at the end of a date that you don't want to hook up? And this guy looks perplexed because he's like, you could just say that you don't want to do some stuff. But she's having a hard time wrapping her head around the concept that a guy is not going to be mad at her, or what are the potential consequences in terms of him wanting to further get to know her if she says no, to where she's almost like, but I can't possibly do that.
Right, but they are like, well, I put in that time, I'm not even going to get anything out of it.
So, okay, let's look at it this way. If you decide that you're gonna go look at cars, right? I hate cars. If you decide you're gonna go look at a car, you see all the things, and you've put in the time and effort to drive there, and they give you a snack, and you do the test drive or whatever. You're like, oh, I really like this car. And then you decide not to buy it. Do they get to be mad at you about that?
No, I guess.
Exactly. So like you said, if this is akin to if a guy asks her out and she spends time with him and, he gets her dinner, they're talking, they're attempting to try to build a connection, and he's obviously taking out, an hour and a half to 2 hours of his day in order to try to build something with this woman. If at the end of all that, she says, well, this has been a fun time, but I'm not feeling that thing, that does not mean that because of the time spent, she now owes him the bedroom.
Because it's not what you wanted.
Right.
Same thing with sex. You're allowed to say no whenever you want to. And if the person gets mad about it, they're probably a dickhead and you probably don't want to be with them.
That's true, guys. If you're on a date with a woman and you're having a good time and you want to do some bedroom stuff, like say it's like date 1, date 2, date 3, date whenever really, and she's like, I'm not feeling it, then you trying to push back against that or feeling some type of way, obviously that is not the route you want to go because she has the right to be respected in what she wants to do. If her choice that night is that she does not want to do some physical stuff with you, then that is in her right. You trying to hammer it onto her that she has to or guilt trip her into thinking that she needs to is not good either.
I don't know. I'm just
And it's not to say that you should like tease anybody or like play with anybody because that's not okay. But like,
But it's also like, what if you do? Like,
what if
there's
you do
certain things that like they talk about, or like you're like, oh, okay, like I can see us. Like you're like, oh, I would hook up with this person.
Well,
But
then,
then-
just because you would hook up with someone doesn't mean that you have to every time you see them, or that you should every time that you see them, or that you should do things before you're ready to. But you obviously shouldn't. So wait till you're comfortable and do things as you're ready.
And by the way, guys, that goes for you too. I know back in the day, I felt some kind of way because I knew that I was trying to remain a virgin until I was married. And I really thought that women that went out with me, if I tried to say that they would be turned off by it. So I just really didn't ask a lot of women out because I was like, well, I don't want to do whatever. And it didn't take until years later to realize, hey, wait a minute, like I have a say in this too. Like just because she's pretty and hot and attractive and that I'm having those feelings, maybe I want to wait a little bit longer to vet her to see if we're actually going to, have a good chemistry and have a connection and have things in common to where maybe I want to wait. And there are women out there that will clown you for that or feel like, well, you're a guy and you're supposed to want it all the time. And we'll get to where all this stuff comes from in a minute. But the point is that just because that's a narrative going around doesn't mean you have to follow that narrative. If you are not ready, then you can make her wait also. And if she ends up leaving because of it, then it's better that it happened early on to let you know whether or not she was going to respect your boundaries that you're setting forth versus just, acquiescing to doing it.
like you say no, and then the guy just is like, well, fuck you, blah blah blah.
Then
I did this.
then he's a manipulative asshole and you probably shouldn't be dealing with him. And he revealed himself. That's a good thing. It means that like this is a person that was bad for you, that revealed themselves to be an asshole that you can now cut out of your life.
But also, like, are there things that, like, the way I dress, stuff like that, like, would it make it seem like I'm
There's
more
nothing
like...
that you can wear that makes it okay for a dude to not hear your no.
That's true, guys. Just because she could be showing up on a date butt naked with sequins and stuff all over, that does not mean that if she says no, you're going to be like, but you're naked, so we got to do some stuff, all right?
I just feel like sometimes I could give the wrong impression, maybe, I don't know.
What impression could you possibly give him that would make him believe that it's okay for him to ignore your no?
I don't know, like, look easy or something?
You could be butt ass naked. It don't mean if you say no, it's still no.
Okay, that makes sense, I guess.
And even after all that, she's like, okay, I guess it makes sense. She still sounds kind of like hesitant or doesn't believe it, okay? But here's the question on that end of things is, where did this woman get all these ideas about her having to fight herself with wanting to say no when she's not ready, all right? So this goes back to the miscommunication and misunderstanding that is built up based on the things we see in society and things we hear. So we'll start with the young boy that I talked about earlier who thought that he had to pay a woman to be able to get her number, okay? So how many songs out there are out where you hear singers and rappers talking about your boyfriend's not anything, he's this broke loser guy, but hey, I got money, I can get you into VIP, I can buy you the best champagne, I can take you all these trips around the world. And then in the song, these guys are saying these braggadocious things and saying things like, yeah, well, I took your chick because I could, I had more money and she sees us ballers over here popping bottles and stuff, and therefore this is who she wants. Young boys hear this. Young boys see on TV the suave debonair guys in suits on TV that are getting all the women, and they're just brushing aside the so-called broke, quote-unquote, losers. And so these things play a powerful narrative to young men who, prior to puberty, aren't really thinking about women, but they're observing and they're taking in notes about what does or what doesn't work to attract women. So at the point where they get ready and get into that state of mind where they want to attract women, now their first thought's like, oh crap, if I want to get a woman, I got to have money. I got to be able to show her that I can get her the finer things. I got to be able to pay for everything we're going to do. And to be fair, you know, there is a part about money that is important in the sense that you can buy, you know, a house, you can buy a car, you can buy things that are going to provide security and a place to stay. And these things are important to women. Okay. It's just, it's not necessarily at as high of a level as we are made to believe. Like, I don't have to live in a mansion to be able to attract a woman. I've been in an efficiency apartment before. I've had it where I lived on somebody's couch before, and I was still able to attract women based on other qualities besides clearly how much money I could spend, which at the time was not much. Okay. But again, there's a narrative that young boys are being made to believe, which is that money equals success with women. And as you know, as an adult, you've seen situations where millionaires and billionaires have lost their wives despite how much money they had. Okay. So we know that narrative now as adults, especially after a lot of trial and error, but young boys don't get that. Okay. And so this is where they start to form their ideas about what is and what is not going to work. And that is going to be a very harmful narrative because it's jokey when he said it, like, oh, I can just pay a woman and, you know, be able to get her number. So, but he's already got the thought of, in order to get what I want from a woman, all I got to do is spend money. So now this little boy grows up into his early 20s and he's thinking, okay, if I just take her on this dinner, if I just, you know, decide to say I'm going to take her on this particular trip, then I'm going to be able to get her number. I'm going to be able to, you know, get sex from her. I'm going to be able to eventually have her get my child. Like, all these things build upon that simple thought of like, money equals number. Money now equals sex. Dinner equals sex. If I want something done my way, then I just got to be able to pay for it, and she should be happy that I'm producing the money to make this thing happen. Okay, that's where that narrative comes from. Now, what about women? In terms of this woman's plight of, she wants to be able to go on a date and have a good time, but thinking that at the end, if she doesn't want sex, she's going to still need to give it up anyway. Well, I'm a guy of the world. So I only have my experience of this as a guy. So everything that I've had to learn about this has been from reading and from women that I've had to talk to and interview. Okay. So the most that I can muster, and this is where I would say, if we really want to figure out how women are raised in terms of their viewpoints on men, try to look at some women's channels on YouTube where the women talk about like the lessons that they're taught as young women and the things that they have to go through in order to be able to try to keep a man, quote unquote. Okay. But that said, I can give you what I have learned thus far, is that women are very much given the narrative of, you take care of everyone else's needs and your needs come secondary. So that means that if you're on a date with a guy and he's showing you a really good time, maybe that first night or that second date, she doesn't have a need for sex. But if this guy wants it and he's going to feel bad if he doesn't get it, then there's a part of her that has been taught and trained to think, well, his needs are coming before mine. I might not be comfortable yet doing this sexual act, but if it's going to make him feel good, and that's a need that he has, then who am I to say no? And this is where a lot of times you have women that'll hook up with you on a first or second date, and then they'll come back later and say, well, I wasn't really ready for that kiss, and I actually wasn't really ready the first time we hooked up, but I just went along with it. Like, and as a guy, you're like, you could have just said no. But I'm going to be honest, guys, that woman has probably gone out on several dates with many men who she's tried to say no to them. She's tried to say, hey, not tonight, whatever. And they threw a hissy fit. They say, what's wrong with me? They say, you just want to, you know, F those Chaz and Tyrones and those broke boys and whatever. And you don't want to do me. And I'm a nice guy and blah, blah, blah. And so I can imagine after a few of those speeches, women are just kind of like, well, either I got to say I'm on my period, or I got to, you know, like brush this guy off and not see him again, because he's not going to get the point if I just say no. And women, I've learned, have a hard time being able to just say no without most men trying to renegotiate with them or fight them back on what their no was. Okay. So is it any wonder then why this woman has a hard time thinking, wait, I can just say no to a guy? Like, I can say a guy can ask for sex. I can say no to this guy, and then the result will be he'll say it's okay and then want to take me out again. Like, that's a hard thought for women to get their heads wrapped around because it so rarely happens, okay? So these are the miscommunications we have. On the one hand, we have guys thinking, I got to pay some money in order to keep her attention. And then you have women saying, I got to give up my body in order to keep the guy's attention. And neither of these things are true. These are things that are promoted and blasted out there. And it's never ever to say that those kind of people don't exist. Like there are women out there who are like, hey, I'm not going to date a guy unless he makes X amount of money. I need to see him like buy me purses and bags and blah, blah, blah. And it is true that, you see women go after these superstar guys who ironically enough don't have to pay anything for them, but because they have the status is what's getting these rich dudes the women, not necessarily the money, okay? But that said, there are women out there that are like that. And much to like women say, there are guys out there who, if they were to say no to him, they don't know if he's going to try to cry, throw a hissy fit, or try to bring physical harm to them. And some guys really don't take it well, okay? But that's some and some on both sides. What I found is, in both of those cases, that's not the majority. Like, the majority of women do not need you to throw money at them in order to go out with them. Just like if I was coaching women, I'd say, women, the majority of men out there, I know your experience is that a lot of them have a hard time with a no, but it's like most guys that they care for you and they're trying to respect you and they're trying to make you comfortable, they might be a little pushback on that initial no, like, what, like, why not, blah, blah, blah. But usually he'll be like, okay, you know what, that's fine or whatever. Because if he's really trying to build something with you and it's a guy that cares about you, then he's willing to wait. I've told women I've dated forever, I'm like, hey, I'm on your timetable. So whether it's the first date or whether it's the second month, I'm here to have a good time in whatever capacity that means. So if that means that part of this good time as we're getting to know each other is that we're hooking up, fantastic. If part of that time means we're just sitting at home playing Overcooked or just, going out on actual dates or whatever, then that's also fine. I'm not going to rush that, okay? So recognize, guys, since this is guys I'm primarily coaching, okay, is that there are a lot of narratives about the way in which you think women are going to be attracted to you that are undeniably false. Now, I've talked on this show about a lot of lessons that I've learned about things that did and did not work, okay? And those have always been based on my experience. And even with that, even with the experience that I have dating and the stuff that I'm able to say to you, recognize that my experiences are based on the women that I have dated, along with, people that I've coached and people, friends in my life and stuff like that. But a lot of times on the show also, I talk in generalities. And the reason I do that, quite frankly, is because, there are patterns that both sexes tend to do that, if you know them well, can help you in terms of attracting women. Like I said, most women want somebody that's going to be able to make them feel safe, somebody they can trust, somebody they can come to and cry on without having to worry about them going out in the world and teasing them about it and stuff like that, okay? So there are some generalities that are true. But even within that, even with the stuff that I talk about on the show, the next woman that you come across, she may not fit that. She may be the 1% of women that I didn't mention did a certain thing or talk a certain way or whatever. But the point is, this is why it's imperative that you take those first 3 months of dating to really vet the person that you're with, because you might find out that the thing you thought would work on her in bed, for example, that worked on like 9 of the women you dated and that worked on all the women I talked about, doesn't work on the one woman that you want to date. Or, you might hear something in the show like, hey, on average, it takes like 2 to 3 months before a woman solidifies her feelings, but the woman that you're dating might come to you in month 1.5 and say, I want to get with you, okay? So you need to be mindful that generalities overall are a guide to be able to help you look for behaviors that are more often than not going to happen. But always remember that the person you're dating right now is a singular person. So you need to be making sure that you're looking to see what their likes and dislikes are. You need to really ask questions about them and what really drives them in a relationship, so that way you can get an idea of what that person's specificities are in terms of trying to attract her. And then you can tack on some other generalities that you've seen that happen to work overall, while at the same time using certain specific things that work to that particular person, okay? But this whole conception and idea of you got to pay money, you got to have a lot of, a rich lifestyle to get women, that's one of the many things that are being taught by people that are not true for every single situation. All right. And I just think it's sad. It's just interesting. I had those 2 conversations come to my attention this week. The one about the kid wanting to pay money for a number. Then this woman talking about how she thinks she has to give up sex, even if she doesn't want it, to not upset the guy. Okay. Because those are some very toxic narratives that unfortunately are still perpetuated in a wide variety in society and media that you need not listen to. Okay. Now, if you want to learn some more positive, some more actual things that you might be missing out on, or things that you might think you should be doing to attract women that actually won't work, you can go to my website, check out my ebooks, audiobooks, programs, and you can sign up for one-on-one coaching. All these things are designed to help you date as your introverted self while still getting your precious alone time. All right. Anyway, that's the show for today. We want to show you support. Subscribe to the YouTube channel at youtube.com/Harry Wilmington, or you can send a monetary thank you by going to introvertdatingsuccess.com, clicking on the tip jar tab, and sending a monetary thank you. That's all I got for now. I'm Harry Wilmington, and I'll catch you guys on the next one. I'm out. Peace.